What does a perfect basketball season actually look like? Not the myth, one you can measure, possession by possession. In 2013, a 28-year-old LeBron James walked into training camp in Miami with a quieter jumper, a stronger post game, and a promise to erase every asterisk next to his name.
LeBron James from downtown.
We're going inside the year he stacked a 27-game winning streak, a fourth MVP with 56.5% shooting and 40.6% from three, finished second in Defensive Player of the Year voting to Marc Gasol, and authored a June masterpiece against San Antonio. Now, how does a reigning Finals MVP come back better in every phase without taking more shots? Blueprint begins. The quiet rebuild of a champion starts right where the work lives, in the details that don't make headlines. Miami is coming off its first title of the Big Three era, a 4-1 win over Oklahoma City, and the offseason choice is simple: build on what worked, strip out what didn't, and make the best player in the world even sharper. Erik Spoelstra, now in his fifth season as head coach, sets the tone with a steady hand and a clear message. Training camp in 2012 starts with a different kind of noise. Less talk, more craft. He shows up with lighter steps and tighter habits. The work from the previous summer doesn't disappear. It gets organized. Footwork isn't a drill now, it's a language. He's working angles on the left block, catching on the right elbow, and reading the second defender before the ball even touches the floor. The mid-range isn't a bailout anymore, it's a rhythm answer. One hard dribble, plant, square, lift. That's what follows him into Miami's gym as the season opens. But the room still carries the leftover questions. A title from a shortened year doesn't move everyone. There's the whisper about late-game shot-making. Can he live in the post when the game slows? Can he make those same reads when scouting closes the seams? Those are fair questions in October. They hang there when the first preseason drills begin and linger into the opening weeks. Miami's plan keeps the structure simple. The ball finds him early in possessions and late if the play stalls. Spoelstra leans into spacing and pace. They use 4 around 1 in pockets and flow into spread sets with clear sides. Chris Bosh pulls to the mid-post and baseline, living in that 15 to 18-foot area to drag a big out and clear the lane. Dwyane Wade manages workload with a smarter cadence, strong bursts, targeted attacks, and late-game usage. Pat Riley holds the roster steady around that core, valuing continuity over noise. The pieces around the stars widen the floor. Shooting flanks every action, and the first pass out of a touch post-up is no longer a safety valve, it's a threat. Miami's offense starts to breathe with cleaner spacing. Lanes open for a deep seal on a switch, a strong cut, or a kick to the slot when help comes one step too far. The spacing isn't a diagram, it's a living thing that shifts with a single cut. Practice days set the tone. The staff preaches detail and repetition. The film sessions run longer with more player input. Matchups are not just assigned, they're discussed. He starts calling out triggers and clips, when to flip a screen, when the weak side will show early, when the corner can lift to open a lane. In scrimmages, the post touch is a test, not a rest. He catches, waits a beat, tracks the defender walking into the double, and beats it with a late skip. The reads come faster because the setup is cleaner. Early signs show up in the paint. The attacks to the restricted area are more direct, with fewer wasted steps and stronger finishes through contact. The mid-range jumper, once a question, becomes a tool he can use on balance and on the move. Those are small layers, but they hold up when the schedule tightens. The first month gives Miami a template for where the ball should start and how possessions should end. Ray Allen adds a release valve in second units and closing time. His gravity trails him into every lineup, and the catch-and-shoot windows look bigger because he's in the corner. Shane Battier slides between forward spots, screening, spacing, and keeping defenders honest along the arc. Mario Chalmers takes on more pick-and-roll ball handling in short stints to keep the tempo high and the defense chasing. That rotation looks the same on most nights, which lets timing set in. The actions don't hunt highlights. They hunt layups and open threes. The shot diet shifts without a bump in volume. More looks at the rim, fewer off-balance twos, and threes taken where the pass hits the hands right. The percentages start to climb in quiet ways, Cleaner takes at the cup, more comfortable pull-ups from the elbows and above the break. When defenses try to shrink the paint, the post-up becomes the counter. He seals smaller guards early, turns the catch into a power step, and either finishes or tosses a simple kick when help dives. By December, Miami knows who they are. The offense runs through the elbows and low block, with cutters spinning off him and shooters lined up for second-side threes. The reads look automatic. Once the ball finds his hands, the defense has to guess right twice. If help stunts, the pass flies. If it stays home, the lane opens. And when the clock ticks down, the mid-range rhythm jumper is there, up, square, and clean. With the foundation poured and roles defined, the calendar becomes the next test. The habits are in place. The spacing holds. The reads have a rhythm. Now we turn to the stretch where those pieces stack up, night after night, and pressure starts to keep score. Nights of Inevitability begins with a schedule that refuses to blink. From February 3rd to March 25th, 2013, Miami ripped off 27 straight wins, the second longest streak in NBA history. The rotation tightened and the closing unit took shape. LeBron, Bosh, Battier, Wade, and either Ray Allen or Mario Chalmers depending on matchup and ball handling needs. The script late was simple. Space the floor, run elbow actions or a high pick and roll, and let LeBron read the second defender. On defense, switch more on the wings, keep the paint crowded, and live with tough jumpers. Each win raised the temperature. National cameras chased them city to city. Opponents started loading up with early traps and late doubles. Teams sat on his left-hand drives, then sent a second defender from the strong side to cut off the spin. It still didn't slow the reads. He used the trap as bait, drew two, and fired to the slot or the corner, where Wade and Allen turned rotations into layups and threes. A few nights told the story. In Cleveland on March 20th, the streak almost snapped. Down 27 in the third, Miami chipped away with stops, quick outlets, and deep seals. LeBron hunted the switch on smaller guards, backed them to the dotted line, and either finished through contact or kicked to a shooter as help arrived. That comeback held the run together and showed the trust inside the system. In late February on the West Coast, the Kings game stretched into double overtime. Legs were heavy, sets got simpler, and execution mattered. LeBron worked above the break pick and rolls, skipped passes over the top, and hit timely pull-ups when the paint closed. And against Portland on February 12th, he went 11 for 15 for 30, marking 6 straight games with at least 30 points on at least 60% shooting, a rare feat that underscored how efficient the month had become. Those nights gave the streak teeth. Zoom out to the numbers backing the run. For the season, LeBron averaged 26.8 points, 8.0 rebounds, and 7.3 assists on 56.5% from the field. February turned into a heater, with true shooting spiking and turnovers staying in check. During the streak, Miami ranked first in net rating at 12.9 and first in true shooting at 59.9. Those figures matched what you saw on the floor. High-value shots, clean defensive stands, and closing time control. They were not just beating teams at their style. They were dragging games into Miami's preferred pace and shot profile. The mechanics behind it were steady. He called for screens to target the weakest defender, then buried that player with a deep post seal before the help could form. If the trap came early, the pass left early. If it came late, he split it with a strong first step. Wade cut behind ball-watching wings, and Allen lived in the corners, punishing one-step mistakes with quick-release threes. Battier screened and ghosted into open space, and Bosh popped into the mid-range to pull a shot blocker away from the rim. The result was a steady stream of paint touches and kickouts that put defenses in rotation for entire quarters. Pressure never left. With each win, opponents chased moral victories, hit him at the point of attack, get physical on the boards, shorten the game. Miami still closed tight moments with the same formula. Space the corners, lift a shooter to the wing, and trust LeBron to find the best shot. In clutch time during the streak, the poise held. Possessions stayed clean, even on the road, and the defense forced late clock jumpers. 7 different times, they pulled a game back from double-digit holes. That matters. It meant they could win in transition or in a half-court grind. On hot shooting nights, or when the jumper went flat, the winning became a rhythm rather than a rush. Then came March 27th in Chicago. The Bulls brought size, contact, and no fear. They checked cutters, bodied drives, and turned every catch into a wrestling match. Miami lost 101-97. A long streak ended, but the residue from those 27 nights didn't vanish. It hardened the Heat's belief in their late-game blueprint and their ability to solve different problems. By then, the discussion had shifted from the streak itself to what powered it. The efficiency, the control, and the shot selection pointed to something larger taking shape, and the numbers were ready to be held up against the league's best. So what does that level of control look like in an MVP race that demands proof every night, near perfect? The MVP that silenced doubt. Can you miss the 50-40-90 club and still deliver a more dominant offensive season? Start with the splits, because they frame the argument. LeBron shoots 56.5% from the field, 40.6% from 3, and 75.3% at the line. He wins his 4th MVP, and his PER lands at 31.6, the second best mark of his career. The efficiency jumps off the page, but the value is in how he got there. He didn't inflate volume to chase numbers. He tightened the shot menu, cut empty possessions, and squeezed more out of each touch. The voting chatter that spring comes with the usual noise. Some lean toward voter fatigue. Others make the case for Kevin Durant or another challenger. Defense rarely headlines MVP debates, and yet most nights, Miami tasks LeBron with the toughest assignment. That context matters because the award goes to the player who shapes winning the most, not the one who fills a box score the loudest. When you stack the categories, efficiency, usage, defensive range, his case stops being abstract. His shot diet shows a mature design. He starts with rim pressure, using early seals and strong drives to live at the basket. The post turns into a base, not a bailout. Miami's spacing, corners held by shooters and a big who can pop, creates clean angles for quick moves in the paint. The threes are chosen, not chased. Corner looks when the ball swings. Above the break attempts when defenders sag under and dare him to pull. That blend turns every possession into a high-value decision. The advanced reads back it up. His true shooting percentage sits at 64.0%, elite for a wing with that creation load. The Heat post an offensive rating of 112.3, second in the league, while the defense checks in at 103.7, ninth, for a net rating of plus 8.6, also second. That environment reflects how his on-ball gravity and off-ball spacing pull defenses apart. Box plus-minus and impact metrics in that era point to the same balance. Top-tier production with restraint. He doesn't need a sky-high usage to command games because the touches he takes bend coverage more than raw attempts would. On the other end, the workload is real. He guards 1 through 4, depending on the plan. Some nights he starts on a primary ball handler, others he toggles to a power forward who lives on the glass. Late possessions, he takes the star. Closeouts are controlled, tags on rollers are on time, and he stays active in gaps to stunt and recover. It's not chase the block defense, it's system defense that turns into quick outlets after deflections. Awards voters notice. He finishes second in Defensive Player of the Year, voting to Marc Gasol, a nod to his influence on both phases. His steal rate feeds Miami's transition attack, and the team's defensive rating supports the idea that his activity helps set the ceiling pair that with the offensive leadership, directing traffic, calling sets, pushing in early offense, and the profile looks complete. The case isn't built on a single hot month. It's built on steady command from October through April. The conversation about value often runs into balance. Can a player carry scoring, playmaking, and defense without stacking waste? That season answers it. He puts up 26.8 points, 8.0 rebounds, and 7.3 assists per game while maintaining those shooting splits. The efficiency bumps the math, miss fewer shots, generate cleaner looks for teammates, and control pace without over-dribbling. That's how you lead an offense to the top tier and still have legs to guard late. Narratives fade when the tape and the data agree. The MVP in 2013 reflects both. Peak efficiency inside a team that wins, with defensive responsibility that doesn't sag when the offense gets heavy. The hardware lands where the impact points. The trophy matters, but it also sets a bar. The mission is bigger than votes. Because the real test sits in May and June. The season hands him the award, then asks a different set of questions in each round. What do you learn about a superstar when every series demands a new answer? 3 different fights starts with a bracket that doesn't wait for comfort. Round 1 sets the tone without draining the tank. Milwaukee can't speed him up or pull him out of his reads, and Miami closes the series 4-0. LeBron plays to control, not chase. Early touches at the elbow, quick seals on mismatches, and a steady stream of hit-aheads set the tempo. He averages 24.5 points, 7.8 rebounds, and 6.8 assists while his minutes stay light because the margins are clean. When the Bucks try to load the lane, the ball sprays to corners and the gaps reopen on the next trip. Second units hold serve because the structure doesn't change. Pace, space, simple reads. The sweep is less about fireworks and more about economy. Miami leaves the series with rhythm and legs. The second round changes the terms. Chicago brings contact, bodies at the rim, and a half-court fight. Tom Thibodeau's defense packs the paint and dares Miami to win the math with patience. Free throws and spacing become the battleground. Every drive meets a forearm, every cut gets bumped, and the clock bleeds. LeBron responds with balance. He posts 23.6 points, 7.0 rebounds, and 7.8 assists per game, takes the top late-game assignments, and turns extra defenders into late-clock kickouts. The series swings game by game. Chicago grabs momentum with physicality. Miami answers by flattening the floor and forcing closeouts. Injuries shape the Bulls' rotation, but their plan holds. Show help early, wall off the paint, contest without gambling. The Heat counter by moving the point of attack. Some trips start in the mid-post, others with a high screen to force switches and punish a small on-big seal. By Game 5, the pattern sticks. Keep the turnovers down, live at the line, and make Chicago's jumpers decided. Miami wins 4-1, not because it's easy, but because the pace bends to their plan. Then comes the Eastern Conference Finals, a 7-game tug-of-war with Indiana that demands a different answer. The Pacers are built to erase clean looks at the rim. Roy Hibbert controls the paint with verticality, David West hits the body on every roll, and Paul George tracks LeBron, possession after possession, with length and discipline. The series narrows into small windows. One mistake becomes 2 points the other way. LeBron raises volume without losing shape, averaging 29.0 points, 7.3 rebounds, and 5.3 assists. Game 1 sets the tone with a buzzer-beating layup, born from a clear-out and a direct line to the cup before the help can form. It's not a lucky bounce, it's a read on timing and spacing against a set that doesn't usually break. Across the middle games, Indiana's size tests Miami's spacing rules. Missed box outs turn into second-chance points. Cross matches force scramble, rotations. Miami answers by changing how the first action starts. Post touches move to the elbow to shorten the pass against digs. Shooters lift a half step to widen the skip lane. When Indiana drops a big, LeBron leans on the mid-range pull-up, using the screen as a shield to get 2 clean dribbles into rhythm. When they bring 2 to the ball, he cuts the angle, drives the seam, and forces help to choose between a lob and a corner 3. It becomes a possession-by-possession equation. Indiana stays stubborn, and that's the point. This is a series that rewards patience more than flair. Game 7 in Miami carries that logic to the finish. The touches are direct. The decision's quick. He puts up 32 points and 8 rebounds, picking spots without forcing. The mid-range holds when the paint closes, the post touch draws help that never quite reaches, and the defense locks onto first options. The Pacers don't go away, but the margins finally tilt. Late, he switches onto actions to flatten the drive, shows on the roll, and still secures the glass. That's the separation. Carry the scoring and still close the loop on the other end. By the end of 3 rounds, the through line is clear. The Bucks test control, the Bulls test poise, the Pacers test patience. Miami comes out sharper in late-game execution because every style has been answered within the same framework. The payoff is not just the wins, it's the adaptability that keeps stacking them. The stage that follows brings a different kind of pressure, no cushion, no do-overs, and a margin that can swing on a single play. Twice starts with a scoreboard that won't give an inch. San Antonio leads 3-2, and Miami walks into Game 6 with no margin. Tim Duncan anchors the paint, Tony Parker controls tempo, Manu Ginobili plays the gaps, and Greg Popovich toggles coverages possession to possession. The task is simple to say and hard to live. Extend the series against a team that rarely beats itself. Through 3 quarters, the Spurs win the math, and the clock Miami trails deep into the 4th, and every miss threatens to end the year. Then the game turns into a test of resolve and leadership. LeBron starts hammering the rim. He loses the headband in a scramble and keeps attacking, even as turnovers stack up on tight drives and kickouts that don't land. The Spurs sag to the elbows, show help at the nail, and trust late contests. He answers with constant pressure. Drag screens bring Parker into actions. Pop's bigs play a drop to protect the lane, so LeBron mixes straight-line drives with pull-ups when the pocket opens. Miss, then make. Turnover, then layup. The rhythm is messy, but the intent is clear. Live in the paint, collapse, and force choices. By the numbers, he puts up 32 points, 10 rebounds, and 11 assists, guiding possessions and keeping voices steady in huddles where the season feels thin. San Antonio's rotations remain sharp, so Miami's margin is offensive glass and second chances. Dwyane Wade pries open mid-range pockets. Chris Bosh slides to the baseline, then pops to pull a big. The Spurs keep the edge until the final minute, when the game compresses into a handful of plays everyone remembers. The closing sequence is clean and brutal. Kawhi Leonard misses a free throw that could have made it a 2-possession gap. On the other end, LeBron's 3-tie doesn't fall. Chris Bosh climbs, secures the offensive rebound, and immediately swings the ball to the right corner. Ray Allen backpedals into his spot and buries a game-tying 3 with 5.2 seconds left. Overtime follows, and Miami rides the wave. LeBron, who'd been uneven earlier, steadies and makes the go-ahead bucket with 1 minute 43 seconds in the extra period. The season survives because execution meets opportunity at the exact second the moment demands it. 48 hours later, Game 7 strips the game plan to matchups, and shot quality San Antonio still gaps to deter the rim. LeBron flips the counter. He takes the mid-range windows they concede, rises in rhythm, and hits them. When defenders duck under, he fires from above the break. When the help leans to Wade, he cuts behind the ball. The result is a full responsibility night. 37 points on 12 of 23 shooting, 12 rebounds, and control in the half-court. Wade adds 23 and 10 to keep pressure on the weak side and punish late stunts. The bench stays ready. The timeouts land with purpose, and the crowd's noise turns from nervous to certain possession by possession. Duncan scores inside early and finishes with a massive line, but Miami narrows the angles in the 4th. On Parker-Kawhi actions, LeBron shows to the level, slides to contain, then recovers to the passing lane. When Parker tries to snake into mid-range, the window closes just enough to force resets. LeBron closes possessions on the glass to end the second-chance problem that burned Miami in earlier games. The final stretch is about small decisions executed cleanly. When to pull from 18, when to drive the gap, when to make the simple pass that keeps the defense honest and the clock firm. Key shots land late, the pull-up jumper from the right wing with space, another from the top when the big sinks. Each make moves the clock in Miami's favor and keeps the Spurs playing from behind. The actions San Antonio still threatens, because that's who they are. But the Heat keep the ball secure and stack stops in the middle of the floor, where transition isn't available and execution has to win. The horn sounds, confetti starts, and the camera finds LeBron's face. The debate shifts, because the numbers now sit beside the moments. A 4-3 series. back-to-back championships, back-to-back finals, MVPs. The year closes with the image of a star taking every question a defense can ask and answering them in sequence. Which leads to the next question: what does it mean when there are no clear places left to attack? The answer lives in the skill set that carried every quarter, every matchup, and every possession. No weak spots. Left, the apex skill set. What does it look like when a 250-pound wing has no obvious hole in his game? Start with the checklist. Post scoring that starts the offense without a dribble. Drives that bend a set defense at will. Threes taken on his terms, not the defense's facilitation that makes corner shooters and cutters feel inevitable. Defensive versatility that toggles from point of attack to backline, help in one-trip late-game execution built on decisions, not hero shots. In 2013, every box stays checked while the difficulty keeps rising. Opponents searched for the lever that would tilt him. Some went under screens and dared the jumper. Others packed the paint, stacked bodies at the nail, and waited for charges. Teams switched smaller defenders to crowd the handle, then brought a second late to slap at the ball. Bigs played drop to wall off the rim. Every tactic aimed to force a choice he didn't want to make. He punished each option. When guards switched, he sealed early, caught deep, and turned the possession into a simple read: finish if help stayed home, fire to the corner if it didn't. When teams packed the paint, he hit the first shoulder, drew two, and skipped to the weak side before the rotation set. When defenders ducked under, he rose into above-the-break threes with balance. If a team sent late doubles on the post, he paused a beat, drew both eyes, and hit a cutter for a layup. His game wasn't about endless counters. It was about the first correct answer, repeatedly. The playoff line frames the scope. He averaged 25.9 points, 8.4 rebounds, 6.6 assists, and 1.8 steals while taking the toughest jobs when it mattered. That production came without empty calories. Early touches secured matchups, mid-clock reads created shots for others, and late-clock possessions leaned on pull-ups he drilled all spring. His true shooting percentage sat at 58.5%, evidence that the efficiency held even when the calendar turned and defenses narrowed. When a defense demanded power, he delivered it. When it demanded patience, he slowed the tempo with a post touch and a kick. The numbers sit alongside the film and tell the same story: volume with control. Defense tied the package together and validated the reputation that had him finish second in Defensive Player of the Year voting. He called switches before screens even hit, tagged rollers from the weak side, then closed to shooters with choppy, balanced steps that protected the drive. In base coverage, he shaded ball handlers into length and help. In scramble mode, he became the organizer, pointing teammates to corners and wings while he checked the most dangerous threat. Those deflections fueled Miami's turnover-to-transition engine. A poke-out turned into a 2-on-1. A high tip became a hit-ahead three. He didn't chase blocks. He hunted stops that flipped possession value. On-off impact showed up in how often opponents settled. With him on the floor, rim attempts came from narrower angles and later in the clock. Steal percentage backed the eye test, active hands in gaps, digs timed to the gather, strips in the post that reset momentum. The Heat played defense in waves, and he was the wave that chose direction. When he shaded to a driver, help rotated on schedule. When he stayed home on a shooter, cutters drifted into traffic. It looked simple because the communication stayed clean. Teams still tried to find air. They slowed pace, crashed the glass, and hunted mismatches. He closed that oxygen with quick cross matches after misses and early switches that kept assignments honest. If an offense dragged him into the post defensively, he leaned on leverage and early disruption, not chase blocks. If they pulled him into pick and rolls, he switched, showed, or recovered depending on the plan, then finished the play with the rebound to end second chances. Late in games, the calculus tightened. He lifted into rhythm pull-ups. When the big retreated, attacked the gap when the nail defender leaned, and trusted the pass when help committed. It wasn't highlight hunting. It was pressure applied to the seam most likely to give. The result looked like inevitability, clean possessions, sturdy stops, and the shot quality edge that wins close minutes. By any lens, that season defines a complete wing, efficient volume, two-way control, clutch decisions that hold under heat. It reads like an operations manual for modern basketball played through one player. The resume is full, the tape matches the stat sheet, and the age matters because it shows the template at scale, how to run a team through elite choices rather than excess shots. Which is why the conversation that follows turns to what that standard meant at 28 and how it reshaped the way we talk about peak seasons. Legacy stamped at 28 starts with context. This was the prime window. At age 28, often an athlete's physical peak, LeBron delivered a model season built on choices, not excess efficient volume, two-way control, and late-game answers, built to scale and built to win. His playoff true shooting checked in at 58.5%, a clean snapshot of peak form. So here's the question. Was 2013 the most complete single-season apex by a wing, or do you place another year higher? Measure it against any great run you value. Drop your take. What's the best version of LeBron you've seen, and which all-time peak do you stack against 2013, Jordan's top title year, Shaq's most dominant spring, or something else?